Hello, if you're watching this video, it's because you're interested in keeping your HMO in the best possible shape by keeping your tenants safe and by knowing what needs to be done so either you or your letting agency do this for you. And that's very important. Let me start with this story, with this piece of news. In June 2024, a fire started in an apartment in Sheffield. About 4 o'clock in the morning, this investor had around 11 people in there who got trapped. They couldn't get out, therefore the firefighters were called. When they tried to come in, one of them fell through the stairs because this one collapsed. This investor then had to go court procedures or proceedings for about 2 years, and then he was sentenced to 6 months in prison, 250 hours community service, and £10,000 in court costs. And that was only because there was no injuries. Had there been any injured tenants, then things would have been a lot worse. This investor didn't have fire systems in place to protect his tenants and his assets. And therefore, with this fire, he not only went to prison, was going to go to prison, but also he won't be able to claim anything from the insurance if he has any. Therefore, this is the reason why all this is important and why you need to pay attention. So please take some time in a quiet place to listen to this, because in all honesty, for me, getting this done, making sure HMO landlords like myself know what their duties are, know what their license depends on, and hopefully give them tools to achieve this and get it done properly and keep their investments running, their assets. Because I am a HMO investor myself in the Liverpool area, and therefore I know how important this is. I've had inspections from the council. I've had to change fire doors in some of my properties because originally they were installed wrongly. And in Liverpool, as in many places in the UK, there are builders who know how to do their job, and there are others who will not know how to do their job. Therefore, your main job as an investor is to know what you need to comply with and make sure your properties are up to standards. How is the Liverpool Council working towards making sure this is being done? Well, you might be aware that recently the Liverpool Council launched a pilot task force to tackle rogue landlords, which means they now have a team of 100 people who are looking for landlords who are not complying with regulations or licenses, etc. So this is getting serious if it wasn't serious enough before, and therefore that's why you need to have these checks done, be it by yourself or be it by somebody else who's managing your property. Very, very critical that you do that. That's why this video is called the 10 most critical checks you as an HMO owner should be doing to avoid losing your license from Liverpool Council. Is that important? So before we start, why am I doing this? Why am I going to the trouble to do all this and to try to get your attention for this? In all honesty, as I said, for me it's very important to make landlords, HMO landlords, aware of why this needs to be done, how this needs to be done. And on top of that, I'm looking for HMO owners like yourself who want a proper, serious HMO letting agency in the Liverpool area, because I manage my own properties and I want to expand through my letting agents and help the community and the Liverpool Council to have properties that comply and to have tenants that are safe. And all in all, we all are benefited. We all have a good image in terms of the public in general, because as you know, HMOs don't have the best reputation in the country. That's why I'm doing it. And if you need now or in the future a letting agent who specializes in HMOs, then you can contact me here. My name is Noel Cardona. This is my email and this is my WhatsApp. You can contact me there so we can discuss how we can best manage your HMOs in the Liverpool area. Having said that, let's get the ball running. The first check that needs to be done is a monthly fire panel check. This is important. Why? Because this is the whole brain in the system. If you don't do this and you have a fire and the system doesn't work, then you have an issue. But if you catch it early, then you can call the electrician, they can look at it, and hopefully they can fix it before something goes wrong. This is mandatory to be done It needs to be done monthly in the Liverpool area, and it's mandatory to keep a record. And it takes only 15 minutes each month. There is a procedure depending on the alarm type that you have, but it involves basically checking a different call point each time, triggering it, checking that the sound goes off, and resetting the alarm properly and leaving it armed for any live event. This is very important. You might already know this, but if you don't, please find a way to get this done every month and keep a record. And the cost is only time. Really, you can do it yourself, or your cleaners can do it, or somebody else who works with you can do it. It's not really something expensive, unless you have many properties and you need to pay for it. In case of our letting agents, we do it as part of our service and make sure you have access to the dashboard. I will show you later on, so you check that is being done. Emergency light checks. If you have emergency light checks in your property, you need to do it, because if there is a fire, normally what goes out first is electricity, it's the normal lights. And what the tenants have is these emergency lights, which should come on and should last for at least 30 minutes for allow for evacuation. And if the light goes off, like the case of the landlord I explained at the beginning, and there's no emergency light checks, people hardly can find their way out. So that's why it's so important. This needs to be done monthly and annually. Monthly, you can do it yourself. Annually, you should pay somebody to come and check it, the same as the fire alarm panel. They normally do it together. And with that record in place, you should have peace of mind that you've done these checks. Also mandatory to keep a record, but you do it in the same way as you did with the fire panel, and it takes only 15 minutes a month. If you had the foresight for your HMO to have test switches, which is some little switches that basically have a key, and you switch them on and off, then you can check each emergency light independently, which is fantastic. If you don't, you need to do it taking the electricity off in the property, turning it off, and then you will see them come on. And if you wait for 15 minutes, half an hour, you'll see they have enough battery to last for what it needs to be done. So this is very important. The cost here is only time for the monthly, and it's about £100 for the annual one, which is not expensive, taking into account is such an important part of the system. Now, fire doors. Fire doors for a HMO, as you know, are really important, are part of the whole protection for each tenant. A fire door, what it does is to contain the fire where it started. If it started in the kitchen, it should contain it there, and the alarm should go off so tenants can evacuate. If it starts the same in a room, it should go off, and it should contain it there, and tenants should be able to leave the room safely. The fire door basically should be installed in a way where the gaps around it are between 3 and 4 millimeters, and it should have seals which expand with fire, ensuring in case of a fire, the door doesn't allow, or at least restrict, the hot gases and fire to spread to other areas. That's why it's so important. And to have self-closers, obviously the fire door should close from any open position you release it, and that's all that they need to be checked. Are they closing corrected? Had the tenant damaged the frame? You've seen many tenants use these hangers like they put to the top of the door. That's not allowed. That should be stopped, because they are damaging the seals that the door has. So it's important to have that, and this takes about 40 minutes a month, because there are so many doors in a HMO. So you just go check. You can do a random check, a different one each time, but if you keep checking them, you'd probably find any issues in the long term. But because a fire door is low maintenance, it means it's strong, it shouldn't be damaged easily. Then you should do it. If you do it randomly with 3 or 4 doors per month in a year, you will cover them all, and you should be fine, and you'll have a record of that. It only costs time if you have a proper agency who's dedicating some resources to making sure this works. And let me show you how I keep a record for all of this. If we go here first, people who do it for us, basically they need to go on their mobiles and fill these documents, and basically they check the whole thing. There's a checklist which complies with this video, and basically all this information comes here, and we can see it per property, when the checks need to be done, who's the fire responsible person. This is effectively an electronic fire log, and then the checks are done here, and basically you know when the last one was done, and then you can basically monitor this from your house. Even if you are not managing the property, you can monitor it, and you can know when things are due, and at least check and at least give a nudge to your personnel or agency to get this properly done. That's how I do it, and that's how you would get it if I was managing a property, a HMO for you. Annual PAT testing. This is portable electrical appliances. Basically, these appliances are the ones that you provide to tenants. Things like electrical items in the kitchen that can be moved around, like, for example, a microwave, a water kettle, a toaster, lamps, if you provide any lamps, radios, anything like that that can be easily disconnected and moved around. Portable is a portable appliance that needs to be tested. That's what it means. And this is done, why? Because these appliances can, if they start malfunctioning, they will basically, or they could initiate a fire, and they need to be tested. If some of them fail the test, which takes 5 minutes, but it needs a specialized machine, then you need to repair it or get rid of it, and that's why it needs to be done. We normally use an external contractor because we don't have the machine and we don't have the time to do this. The contractor will charge per item, and it normally depends on how many appliances you've provided to your tenants. It will cost more, but I wouldn't say it shouldn't cost in Liverpool more than £100 per test. Take action, as I said, if something goes wrong and a machine fails the test, and it takes time to organize it, and about £100 per year to the PAT testing. You can choose to do it every 2 years actually if you want to, but as long as you have a test and this is checked and you have a record in your system, then you should be fine. And obviously keep your certificate to prove that this has been done. And you can also, even though for regulatory purposes it's not necessary you give it to the tenants, you need to go give other documents, but not this one. That certificate basically needs to be on file. Also, you need to do a 5-yearly electrical condition report. This is done by an electrician. But the reason why you need to do it is because you need to see the state of the electricity system or the electrical system in your property. And this is a deep look at the whole system of circuits, connections, and anything that could go wrong. The fuse board, which could cause either a fire or could injure a tenant because is for example, the fuse board has stopped protecting due to any shortcuts that appear. So an electrician comes, looks at the whole thing and tells you which are the defects, and you fix them. That way you have even more peace of mind that your property is in good shape. We use an external contractor who needs to be a qualified electrician. If there are any issues, the same electrician should be fixing them for you. Sometimes it will charge you extra depending on the seriousness of it, but if you take action, and the cost is about, in Liverpool, about £350, and once you get your certificate that everything is correct and fixed, then you just need to put it into file where all the documents that your tenants have access for are available, so they know this has been done and they are safe in the property. Then you also need to do, at the beginning of the license, as you know, there needs to be a yearly fire risk assessment, 3-yearly fire risk assessment, where you look at the property and you find out, apart from everything you've been doing, you find out whether there is something else that might be putting the property and tenants at risk. For example, a common one is nowadays tenants will bring e-bikes into the property that has a battery, and therefore is a risk of fire, and that's something that needs to be managed. So that's why a fire risk assessment, which needs to be done at the beginning and every 3 years, needs to have in place, and obviously whatever you find needs to be rectified. You can do it yourself, or you can have your letting agents do it, or you can hire an external person to do it. In our case, we are qualified, we do it, and we review it and let you know the results. You need to take action, as I said, if there are e-bikes, or if there's rubbish, or if there is something else which catches your attention and needs to be fixed, then hopefully that is addressed promptly, and basically you you have peace of mind that you can show you've done it. And the cost is time, or around £250 for an external contractor if you need to have it. Keep the report and keep the actions you've taken to close any findings, and then you would have another tool to demonstrate compliance. Also, the annual gas safe and boiler services, you might be a lot more aware of this, because this is done for every type of property. And the reason why, not to patronize you, but is basically that if there is a gas leak, you may have an explosion. If the boiler stops working, you're going to have angry tenants, which the council doesn't want and you don't want. And if the combustion chamber in the boiler is not working properly, then the boiler might start generating carbon monoxide, which is dangerous, which can kill people, and that's part of the reasons why you need to get this done every year. You get a gas safe qualified contractor, which is somebody who knows how to do these things and can issue a valid certificate. The cost is around £200 because this is two different services in one, but in the Liverpool area, this is what we are paying at the moment. And you get a certificate for each, which you need to keep on file. The gas safe, before we go ahead with this one, and the gas safe needs to be updated in the folder of the documents tenants can see, so they know by law you need to update that and have it there. There needs to be an annual fire extinguisher servicing, and you should have extinguishers in your HMO, one type for the kitchen, other types for the common areas on the escape route, so they can be used if necessary. The reason why is a fire extinguisher is there to enable tenants to escape, and is not there to fight a fire. A fire extinguisher is not that big for that, but they should be there should be a CO2 type in the kitchen and a foam type in other areas, unless you have a HMO big enough to require other types of fire extinguishers, but those two are the ones that are most commonly used. You get a qualified contractor to do this, and then the cost is time and around £99 per year, more or less. They will try to, if they try to change the fire extinguishers for you, it's better that you go and get new ones, but they normally charge hefty amount because of the privilege of giving you new fire extinguishers. You get a service report that you need to keep on record. Now, the smoke detector testing is another one that you need to do. This, the reason why is because they are the ones that see the smoke or detect the heat, and they need to be working. They are the eyes of the whole system, and if they don't work, then basically the whole thing is dead, because the fire panel is not gonna go off. It can be done in two different ways. One is with a spray, which you can basically spray the system with, and then it will activate it, or you can do it manually. There is a button on each one of them that can check that is actually working. The cost is really time, about 15 minutes for a property, and then keep a record in the way we are doing it with a form, and then it's basically said when it was checked and by whom, and that will give you peace of mind. Now, how do we give landlords access to this? Basically, as I said before, you have a dashboard, fire dashboard, which has all the information about these tests and when your tests for your property are due. That's basically how we do it. Also, we do a quarterly property health check, which is the reason why is to let you know and to keep, apart from the fire risks, you need to comply with having your property in a healthy state, in a proper manner, so tenants have a decent property to live in, decent accommodation, as the council would refer to sometimes. And it's basically to check that there's no things that need repair, things like unblocking bathrooms, unblocking kitchens to avoid any major problems from leakages, silicone around bathrooms, painting, damages, repairs, anything that needs to be done goes into a checklist that we have, and that's basically sent to you with pictures for you to decide whether or not You need to do certain jobs that need to obviously be paid for, but will keep your property running healthy. If you don't have a checklist for your property or each of your agency doesn't have one, please create one. Please ensure you check how well the bathrooms are running. The ovens, are they being cleaned properly so they don't create a fire hazard because of accumulation? Are the different appliances missing a button or working properly? How's all that working in your property? Are the windows okay? Are the gutters cleaned? Is the roof looking fine? All of that needs to be at least checked quarterly so your property is well maintained. You have a hard working asset, which is a HMO, but also needs a lot of TLC. And the way of doing it is by doing these sort of checks. And yes, saving some money monthly for it, but then you have the peace of mind that your property is going to perform, your tenants are going to be happy, and when you have new tenants coming in, you can be proud of what you're going to show. Obviously, you have lots of other HMOs around which are going to compete with yours, and that's another reason to get this done. The cost for this is time, and obviously there will be some money involved when you need to repair anything that you find, but again, it's part of the maintenance of it. Take action in terms of any findings, and keep a record of these health checks, which the consul, when they do an inspection, they are interested in looking at this. Sometimes they ask you to show them evidence. Sometimes they just ask you if you've done it, you say yes, and they're happy with that. But regardless, be the best prepared that you can be for these cases. So let's summarize this. What was the cost? So it's about, if you annualize all the costs, it's basically around £60 per month that you need to keep extra in your maintenance budget to make sure you have all this done. It will cost, in terms of time, around 2 hours per month to do all these checks, and this will help you keep your license. If you have all your records, it will help you keep your license and effectively be a compliant landlord who is proud of his or her HMO, and then can keep it running for the long term. Get your agent to do it. We do it for our landlords, or you do it yourself. You manage your HMO and keep a record. Try to do it electronically. Try to avoid paper. So this is all a lot easier to do using your phone. There are lots of applications nowadays, and you can definitely do it. If you have the time, you can do it. But if you have multiple HMOs and this is just getting over the line, taking your time, the one that you should be using for to find investments, then delegate it. Always try to delegate these operational tasks, but know what needs to be done. So you check it and you audit it and you make sure it's being done. As I said, my name is Noel Cardona. My email is info@easy-accommodation.co.uk. My WhatsApp is the number there. I'm a HMO property investor. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I manage my own HMOs. I have my team, and therefore I'm offering you to manage yours at this point in time or later on in the future. If you have that need, give me a call, send me a message, and I'll be happy to discuss the terms on which we do it. If you don't have a license for your HMO, then we wouldn't take your HMO unless you allow us to apply for one, because that puts in danger any agency. But if you do, and you are a landlord, a responsible one who wants to be compliant and have peace of mind that things are being done correctly, give me a call, send me a message, send me an email, and then we can continue the discussion from there. Thank you very much, and see you soon.